So initially, I was going to do 10 for each video, except for the last video where I would do 9. Because, my top 9, that's like cream of the crop, as opposed to all the other ones, which are like 10, because I watched 49 movies, so, one of them's going to be 9. But I decided that it'd be funner to have, the final one be top 10 movies I watched last year. So we're doing 9 for this one. But here, after we get past, like, our first movie on this one, we're getting into stuff that's, like, I'm absolutely, like, obsessed with. I love so much. First one, though, is just alright. Also, I'm not even writing out notes for this episode because, like, I know these movies. I'm just gonna, for these ones, basically just rant about how much I like them. And what's also good is that as I get more into just talking about what's good about the movie, I'm just putting in screenshots of the movie instead of having to, like, look up things, like, little images to make little funny jokes. I can just put a somewhat related screenshot. Isn't that dope? But yeah, let's get started. And I like the song. First up, we got Nomadland, which I think may be a bit overstated on this list. I feel like just my initial, like, watching reaction and all that, I kind of overhyped it. Still, overall, like, on my current list of, like, top 100 movies, it's, still high up. It's still above Pinocchio, but I did move it under The Shining, which I think is pretty fair. But that's not to say Nomadland is a bad movie by any means. I still think it's amazing. Otherwise, I would have moved it past Pinocchio. But I do feel like it is a kind of controversial film and how it, like, kind of portrays poverty in a kind of bad way. But, like, in my initial watching, I didn't even realize the characters were meant to be impoverished. So it didn't, like, affect me. It didn't, like, make me feel bad about the movie, even though, like, that may be worse, completely eliminating this threat of poverty. It's a hard thing to think about, but I can really only judge a movie by how it personally affects me, And I just really like Nomadland. I think it kind of has a realism which I don't really see in a lot of movies, and I think that's kind of the problem with realism in any art, is it's only really spectacular when it is at its height. If you go after realism and you just swipe it short, it's just boring, which is why I don't usually like my movies realistic. But when you get something like this, it's like they're in just, like, some store, the first scenes of the movie, and I'm just like, that feels like my life. Just the way it's shot makes it feel just so normal, just so average, and that's just, it's so spectacular to me. It just has this great feeling of realism that I love. So that's it. Perfect Blue is a really good movie. I feel like everyone knows that, but I mean, it's true. It's just like, obviously, as a guy, I'm not the person who should be explaining what Perfect Blue means. In case you haven't seen Perfect Blue, it's a movie about kind of like the objectification of women, especially in the entertainment industry, and how this kind of, like, the sexualization and objectification kind of just destroys them and causes this cognitive dissonance between who they are and who they are. Which it's really compelling, it's amazingly well done. The themes are really well developed, but I'm not going to be able to give as much of a personal experience on these themes, which might be better, because I don't think I should be. This is the forum for me to be going in depth into my internal issues over. So maybe it's good if we put off the movies that I relate to a bit too much until later. But yeah, I just think the themes of Perfect Blue are explored really well. It's this really compelling movie. I talked earlier about how I like movies that puts you in the stress of the main character, and this really does make you feel the kind of inherent terror of being objectified. It's incredible. I feel like the mixture of horror and thriller, like the mixture of more literal horror elements with the more psychological thriller elements, are really effective. I think it's really well animated as well, and it just it's a really good movie for portraying its themes. And uh, not to like be like, oh man, I am like, I relate to the woman's struggles. Like, I'm I do like suffer from some derealization stuff. So like, like when I see a movie that has derealization elements in it, it like makes it a lot better for me. But Perfect Blue is a great movie. It really gets you into the headspace of the terror that like just being a famous female garners you. And I assume probably even just like normal women in their day-to-day lives. Sorry guys. The Cabinet of Caligari just looks dope. It's just like incredible looking. And it doesn't have as much to offer as like say something like Nosferatu. Nosferatu has like, it's more, the acting's better, it's more terrifying, but Cabinet of Caligari is possibly just like one of the best looking movies I've ever seen, and it's just incredible. How like they crafted this world that looks this way, and I'm not sure that even someone trying to redo this aesthetic in a modern world could work properly. I think that the practicalness of it only works with like kind of the lower quality of the film, and the not lower quality like the way it's because it's from the 20s, so it's gonna be lower like film quality, not like quality as in it's still 9 out of 10, like that's still up, like that kind of quality. And then I feel like the practicality of it is necessary. It's just an insane world that like every shot you can look at and just be amazed, just be thrown away. And I'm not going to come out here and say, oh, there are characters I love, oh, there are storylines or themes I love. I don't. I think it does do well in getting some horror elements in there. There is a lot of actual tension in the scene, which is not in the scene, in the movie, which is remarkable for a 1920s horror movie. Especially when you like compare it to like horror literature that's older. Like usually in older horror literature, it's like not scary. I've read Frankenstein, but this is scary at some parts, and it's really nice. And I know like it's not in the original movie because it's before sound, but the score that I listened to this with, which would also probably be played live in the theater. It's a really good score. I really love the score. I know there are probably multiple different scores for this, as there are for a lot of silent movies. And I can't think of like the score off the top of my head, but it's just the one that's on YouTube is the one I watched, and I really like the score from it. So yeah, Caligari, me. It's pretty insane to me that like, as a person who's really into Knives Out, that like right now we're in this era where everyone's talking about Glass Onion, like everyone, and by proxy Knives Out. because, I was a big enough fan of Knives Out that I saw Glass Onion in theater. So, like, when I started seeing all this stuff about it on social media, it's like, oh, that's when they released it on Netflix. And it's just crazy because I love Knives Out so much, obviously. And to see, like, getting all this love and affection, it's really dope. I hope they make the Muppets Knives Out movie, even though he says he can't. I believe in him. I think he should make the Muppets Knives Out movie. And it would be the best movie ever made. But, yeah, I still like Knives Out better than Glass Onion. I think Knives Out kind of, by starting in medias res, it kind of hooks you, and then it never lets go. It's just constantly just giving you these 10 scenes, these new plot developments, and by, having the ability to kind of have multiple sets, it also, like, feels a lot more dynamic. I'm sorry, I'm not to put Glass Onion down. Glass Onion's still a 9 out of 10 movie, but I'm just trying to sing the praises of Knives Out. It's also, Knives Out is such a pretty looking movie. Oh my god. I mean, that's kind of what everyone already loves about Knives Out, is that it's, the color palette, the aesthetic. Oh my god. And then, it's funny. I think Glass Onion is funnier than this movie, but still got some good lines. And every character, there are characters, you only see for like a couple minutes or whatever, but every single side character feels so well developed, has such a a good personality, and it's like, it's just like everything's to perfection, and then thematically it's so good. I mean, just like you get wrapped up in her story. The main character, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, everybody. Whoopsie daisy. And it's just, oh my god, it's just Knives Out. It's like, it's amazing. Back to another movie about the struggles of people who I am not. Yeah, another, we're kind of in the group of movies everyone knows are amazing, but as much as everyone knows it's amazing, this Do the Right Thing, it does the right thing by being a dope movie. Oh, what I really love in Do the Right Thing is the way it kind of builds this community. Like, every character feels like they relate to each other in ways that, like, aren't explicitly said. It just feels so natural and so, like, intimate, their connections. And, like, this goes further, like, causing this tension to feel very deep-seated in this community. It'd be so easy to make a movie like this and have this kind of buildup of tension fall very normal narrative structure, But this makes it feel like this is not a movie so much as it is just a snapshot of one particular point in time in this community. Like, there's been tons of history before this, there'll be tons after this. Like, it feels natural. It doesn't feel like a story, and a lot of times and stuff like that it can feel aimless, if you try to go for a more naturalistic movie. But here it still like, despite it not feeling structured, it still feels like the plot is still structured. It just doesn't feel like the plot is as apparent as a driving force as it is in most movies, and that's great. And then besides that, just on a technical aspect, this movie's amazing. It is so pretty. I just love all the colors in this movie. All the shots are so good. It's just a great looking movie. And then, all the characters, even, you have all their connections, and then even individually, they're all great. Like, they all have such vibrant personalities, and a lot of them are funny. There's a lot of really funny moments in this movie. It's just a really great time. I'm gonna be saying the same thing about each of these movies. Like, oh, it looks great. Oh, it's well written. Oh, it has great themes. Like, yeah, these are all great movies. I'm not doing this for next year because I realize I have so little to say, and also like I've watched like 100 something movies this year. So sorry. I feel pretty bad about putting Muppets Haunted Mansion up so high, because it's not like I'm putting like a classic Muppets movie that everyone loves. This is like, you know, an average rated Muppets movie. Like this is probably, I'm the only person whose favorite Muppets movie is this. And the thing is, you know, if it's like, oh, you know, you love the Haunted Mansion. I'm not. I'm the Jungle Cruise guy. I'm not the Haunted Mansion guy. But it just kind of feels like this movie was made specifically for me. Like, every single joke in this lands, and they land hard. Like, every single one. And then, I mean, that's kind of just it. Like, it's just, like, constantly just hilarious to me. And then they constantly do all these references. And, you know, while I'm not, like, the biggest Haunted Mansion fan, I am, you know, a Disney Parks fan. So I get the Haunted Mansion references. And it's like, yo, and then they do Muppets references, and, you know, while I'm not, like, the biggest Muppets fan, well, not like I'm the biggest, most fan, like, I don't love the Muppets, everyone ever loves the Muppets, I mean, I just haven't consumed enough Muppets media. I think next year, I might actually try to get on that and watch all the, you know, mainline Muppets movies, but still, you know, with my limited Muppets knowledge, there's tons of Muppets references, and I'm like, yo, it goes so hard, it's just, like, an amazing movie that I think, specifically for me, like, out of all the movies that are going to be on this and next episode, which are, you know, and the last episode too, you know, had 9 out of 10s and the higher 8 out of 10s. This is the only one that's like, I'm not going to be actively going like, oh my god, you gotta watch this, because it's the only one that feels like is just for me, which obviously is for other people. They had to make this, but I'm the only one who's gonna, in their you know, top whatever this is overall. It's definitely my top 50 overall. I have Muppets Haunted Mansion and not another Muppets movie. But yeah, cool. I think people sleep way too hard on Chicago. Which, you know, is weird to say about a movie that won Best Picture, but Chicago is just, like, an amazing movie that I don't see enough people talking about how amazing of a movie it is. Like, you know, I feel like Chicago just has a lot to say about the nature of fame and the justice system and, like, you know, how they intertwine. And I feel like it's just told in such a well done way. Like, having it be goofier and more tongue-in-cheek just really adds to the messaging of Chicago. And it's just really nice. And then also, having it in a goofy tongue-in-cheek way makes it a fun movie. You know, it's a fun movie that you have a great time, and then you leave it and you got like a little bit to think about. And there are, you know, more emotional scenes in this movie to relate to that. And then also, it's a musical where all the songs go so hard. You know, all of them sound really good. I like jazz a lot, which impacts this, but they all sound amazing. And then, you know, some of them are like emotional. You know, like a lot of them are just goofy and sound good, but then there are emotional things, which is kind of an encapsulation of this movie, where I feel like people take how goofy and fun it is and make that the whole movie, which even still, it's a really amazing, goofy, fun movie. And then they ignore the deeper messaging of the story, but it's like, it's so good. And then it's such a nice looking movie. Like, it's aesthetic, it's colors, oh my god, it all like just looks beautiful. And there's never a single dull scene in this movie. Like, everything, everything looks pretty, sounds pretty, it's funny, it's deep all at once, every single scene. It's amazing. It's just a great experience. And also, Roxy Hart, I'm just gonna say this, the most attractive fictional character I've ever seen. Like, it's not like a Renee Zellweger thing. I've like looked at photos of her de-Roxyfied, and like, it's nothing, just a normal woman. But Roxy Hart in this movie, like, I have pictures of different Roxy Harts and different stage performances now, but this movie specifically, this portrayal of Roxy Hart, oh my god, I don't know if you guys can grasp this. It's like, oh my god. I made jokes in like the previous two videos about having like crushes on fictional people. They're like people who I look at and I'm like, oh yeah, they're hot. This is like the only like big fictional crush I've ever had. Like, this is the only one that's like an actual thing. All the other ones are just like animated characters whose character designs I think are attractive. It's like, this is insane. Okay, that's enough of that. Yo, it's Star Wars. I remember after my first time watching the original trilogy of Star Wars, I was like, Star Wars goes so hard. I want to like consume all the other media relating to Star Wars, which was the same as when I first watched Avatar, the Last Airbender. But with that, I at least watched Korra after. I have not consumed any Star Wars media besides the original trilogy. Even though I'm like, Star Wars goes so hard, and it's weird because I'm not quite sure what is so good about Star Wars. I think it's genuinely just like this kind of epicness to it, which is, it's a silly word to use now, but I don't know any other word to describe like what makes Star Wars so good. I love adventure stuff. Like adventure as a genre, when it's done well, it just like fills you with wonder like no other. Like it really captivates you, and that's what Star Wars does. The Empire Strikes Back, I'm not sure. No, which one is this? Is the third one. I don't know the order the names go in, and I didn't write notes down, so I have no clue which one this is. I just know it's Star Wars, and then I think Return of the Jedi is the third one. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, Star Wars heads. But, this one, I'm not sure if there's like too much unique to say about it besides just the fact that it's like a Star Wars movie, and that makes it really good. Like, I'm not sure how much unique things there are to say about this one, which is maybe why this one's only a 9 out of 10 and not, 10 out of 10 like the others. Spoiler warning. I shouldn't have spoiled that. You wouldn't have known that I watched the other two last year. I should have just not said spoiler warning, and then it would have been like fine, but whatever. Yeah, maybe I'll talk more tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Hey guys, it's our first 10 out of 10 movie, which is great. Our final video is going to be all my top 10 movies, which are all 10 out of 10s, but I feel like, I don't really have to explain what makes a movie a 10 out of 10 for me, because, like a 10 out of 10 is more a general, like everyone knows what a 10 out of 10 is, and Forget Me Not is one. Forget Me got it got me so good. It made me cry so much. I think it's a very relatable thing to me personally, which really makes me get it. It's just like, it's kind of about this, and this, for me at least, this uh, struggle we have against time and losing things, growing older and having things from your past to go to your past. And personally, that's like one of my biggest fears, and I constantly struggle against it for as long as I can remember. Like, even like being in like second grade, I'd be laying in bed just dreading how I'm kind of wasting away my childhood, and I'll grow older and that'll be gone, and it'll be gone forever, and I'll have no way to go back to it. And so this movie's kind of about that, and kind of like, but it's also hopeful, which I think really elevates it. It's like, you have to just ignore the Herculean task ahead of you and just like enjoy where you are in the present without the idea that it's only the present. And, forcing yourself to hold on against life to what's old is bad. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I personally have followed that at all. I don't think this movie's changed me or anything. But it's just, it's just a personal thing to me. And it just is a dope movie. I don't know, besides the themes, if there's much I can recommend it for you. If that kind of, exploring those kinds of ideas interests you, then you should watch it. If not, I'm not sure if there's much else to it, which is kind of, I guess, what got out of my top 10. Everything else is good, though. There's nothing bad about this movie, which I feel like, other things that really thematically get me, but have some bad elements going with the 9 out of 10. But this, it's good. It works, and then it works really well. Night night.